So, my name is Marion too, for those who don't know me. And I am a local artist, and I've been living here since 2001. And as I've been becoming an artist, I also realized how much I enjoyed art history and how much knowing about art history helps me in my own art production. It really, it's hard to explain, but it's really helped me think about how I do fit into my own time by watching how the previous artists explore their culture, and the big things that were happening in their own time. And as I did that, I loved it so much, I became so passionate about it that I decided to start sharing it. So that's why you're here today. So today we're going to talk about the Waterloo Bridge by Claude Monet. And this painting was done in 1903. You see well? You have a good...
Yeah.
Okay, so we need to put that down a little bit.
I'll work on that.
You know how to do... Yeah, I think... Do you know which one is it, Ryan? Is it here? That's
why you have an intern.
Yeah. A very helpful intern.
Nice. Well done.
Bravo. Is it better now?
Nice to have a
Super.
man around.
Yeah.
Was a lucky guess one of them.
Okay, so we're talking about the Waterloo Bridge today. So I have a very, very difficult question for you guys. Where is the Waterloo Bridge? Is it in St. Petersburg? Is it in Paris? Is it in London? Or is it in Antarctica? Who knows?
Is this
Ah,
a picture of the Waterloo Bridge?
yes, that's a picture of the Waterloo Bridge. Should give you some hints.
It is in London.
Who said that? Bravo. You won something.
We'll do that before Antarctica. Really.
Yes. So this is in London. Very good job. Okay, so so now this presentation is going to follow three main points. This is the plan of this presentation. This is what I'm going to follow. And I want you to really keep that in mind because it is going to help you understand the cultural background behind this painting. Okay, so first, it's an Impressionist painting, which is a revolutionary art movement. It is about the end of the Second French Empire, and it is a part of a series of similar paintings. The one little thing I wanted to tell you that I think is funny is that the first exhibition that the Impressionists did in 1874, the word for exhibition in French is exposition. Exposition, that's how we say in French. We don't say exhibition, we say exposition. But they were such revolutionary young men that they decided for their first exhibition to use the word exhibition. So they didn't say it was an exposition, they said it's an exhibition. You see, they used the English word to show, that just shows how much they were already going against the, as we could say, the established order.
So this kind of comes at the end. This is like 25 years after the 1874, you said, and this painting was 1902.
Yes,
so that's kind of in the later.
Yes, yes. So now, before we move to these three major things I told you about, I'm going to do a quick bio about Claude Monet. So he was French, you know, and he was born in 1840 and he died in 1926, which means that he died at 86 years old, which was pretty old at that time. You know, in 1926, 86 years old was a good age. And I want you to notice something is that he died 8 years after the end of the First World War, which is very important because his last masterpiece, what we call the Nymphéa in French, which I think you say the water lilies, is a piece that he made and he gave it to the French government in memory of all the people who died during the First World War. Hi, come in. Would you mind writing your name on the list, please? Thank you. That's okay. You missed nothing. So he was the leader of the Impressionist movement. And look at that. I wrote for the Impressionist movement 1872, 1892. I could have write 1871, 1891. I could have write 70. I mean, we don't really care. I mean, just find these dates somewhere on Wikipedia, and I thought it was fun that they had like perfect dates. But what I want you to notice is that it's a 20 years movement, which is pretty short, okay? That's strange. And I always thought, how come these movements are so short in time? And I was wondering about that. I have my own explanation, which I'm going to give to you. Is I think that we are still too close from these movements to be able to have a far view and to be able to see a bigger idea. Like the movement, when you learn about the art movement, for example, in the United States, the post-50s art movement, they're changing the art movement every 2 years. Every 2 years, it's a new art movement. I think it's just because we don't have a far view yet to be able to view what is the main big idea. So that's my own analysis. Okay, the Impressionist art movement follows which big art movement? Okay, are you ready? Romanticism, Renaissance, Romanian. Romanticism, yeah, bravo. Okay, so Romanticism lasted 150 years. Renaissance lasted 200 years. So you see, 20 years for a movement? Sounds a bit strange. That's a country. Okay. Now, Claude Monet's childhood. He grew up in middle class like most of the Impressionist painters. That's something I want you to remember, middle class. We're going to talk about that. This is a big thing about the Impressionist painters. He grew up in Le Havre, Normandy. Le Havre is the second major port in France, so it's a big town, it's a big city. And I want you to know one thing, is that Le Havre was almost completely destroyed during the Second World War by the bombings, So the Le Havre that Monet knew and grew up, and the Le Havre that we have now, not the same, two different worlds. And his father was in the grocery business. And that is the cliff at Étretat. So this typical of this geology of the area where he grew up, okay? These big cliffs. I mean, we went there. I mean, I took. It's like 2 hours from Paris. When we were living in Paris, we would just go for the day, spend the day there, enjoy, the sceneries. It's very common scenery in the north part of France.
So that was not affected by the bombings?
No, not this part. No, just the town. They would usually they would attack the town where they had more like the oils and all these things. Okay, so now where is Normandy? Haha, right there. So yes, did you see where is Normandy? Guys, did you see where is Normandy? Yes, everybody saw it. So do you know the name of the cheese that is right above the name Normandy?
Camembert.
Camembert. So I'm going to spell it for you because we're going to talk about that later. So C-A-M-E-M-B-E-R-T. Camembert. This is the name of a village in Normandy where it was created. Okay, you go to the village, Camembert. Okay, so Claude Monet had a mentor. His name was Eugène Boudin, and he taught him the technique en plein air. And this is a painting by Eugène Boudin made in Trouville, and this painting was made in 1865. And Trouville is now a seaside resort, and it was already that way before. I mean, people would go, like you go to the Cape here. Okay, this is where I'm going to spend a little bit of time because that's very important. And we're going to talk about the technique en plein air. So first, the technique en plein air means surrounded by people, in a plane, in the outdoors. Ha-ha.
In the outdoors.
Bravo, Sue. Good job. You want something. Yes. I don't know yet what, but. Okay, so it's in the outdoors. And so what I want to tell you is that happened because a new technological innovation happened. A major technological innovation happened that completely changed the life of the artist. Someone, an American guy, in 1841 invented the first metal tube paint, okay, with a screw cap, okay? Before, what happened is that people had to mix their paint, so you have your pigment, you have your linseed oil, and every time you have to do the mixing. Every time you have to mix. So first, your paint is going to dry quickly, and then what they would do is that they could only paint in studio, and then they would have to paint only a small amount of colors. So they were not able to paint like we paint now. We go from the red to the yellow to the, we have our whole palette of paintings with all the colors. They couldn't do that. They had to work for a day with one special color or two special colors. They didn't have the flexibility that we have now. But then if they wanted to go and paint outside, because they wanted to paint outside, they just couldn't do it. What they would do is that they would use bladders. And the bladders, they were perforated and closed with tack. And obviously, they go outside with all their material. Very often, the bladder would, open and break. I mean, it was a mess. Okay? Then someone started changing and inventing something. And then they started to have some syringe. Syringe? But then this American guy, and his name is, let me remind you the name of this guy. His name is John Gough Rand. Hi, how are you? So John Gough Rand, he invented the first metal tube paint. And so now they could go outside. And imagine that then now they can, the paint are being mixed, okay? And they are inside the tube. You just squirt your paint, and then you can take all the colors you want, because then the colors are going to be saved, and they are going to have a much longer life. So you can go outside, you take your few colors, and then on your palette you squint the blue, you squint the red, you squeeze the, and the green, for example, the green. Before, if you wanted to have green, every time you had to mix the green, and you had to mix. For green, what do you mix? Blue and yellow. Bravo. So this time, you didn't have to do it. You just have your tube of green. And then at the same time, a lot of new colors were appearing. So you have to realize how much it opened new horizon. Okay? So that's the thing that is very important that I wanted you to know. Artist Pierre Auguste Renoir is quoted as saying that without paint in tubes, there would have been nothing of what the journalists were later to call Impressionist. Unbelievable, huh? You know, if I can just I read this book, very interesting book recently about the history of colors. And he brought up this argument that I thought was interesting, this very interesting debate. Is it the technological innovation that has changed the way people think? Or is it because the way people think have changed that this has brought the technological innovation? And there are the argument on the two sides, and I think there's no answer to this one.
Yeah, maybe it's both.
Maybe it's both. Yeah. Okay. Now, the beginnings of Impressionism. 1860s. Monet is 20 years old. He's a young man and he's ready to conquer the world. Okay. Development of the Impressionist style with his best friend and painter. Who was Monet's best friend? Jackson Pollock, Henri Renoir, Auguste Renoir. Renoir, bravo. So, I didn't put these two names by mistake. I put Jackson Pollock first because I think I see that there's a lot of commonalities between Jackson Pollock and Monet. They were both the public image of their movement. If you talk about Impressionism, the first person you're going to talk about is Monet. If you talk about abstract expressionism, which is the American movement, the post-war American movement, the first artist you're going to talk about is Pollock. So but these two have, I think these two have great weight representing their own art movement.
Monet was much earlier than Pollock.
Yes, Pollock is the post-Second World War, and it represents the first real American movement, independent from Europe. Okay? Henri Roire, I wrote that name because in that period of Impressionism, it was a group of friends, okay? And they would meet at the cafe, but they also meet at home and have dinner together. And this group of friends, you would have painters, you would have poets, you would have musicians, but you would also have industrial people who were very interested in the art and who were the people who were going to invest the first one into this art in which nobody believed in. Henri Roire was one of them. Okay, so now, the beginnings of Impressionism. In which cafe on the River Seine near Paris was Impressionism born? Okay, l'Escargotière, la Grenouillère, au Bon Béret. So you have the answer, la Grenouillère. So you know what grenouille mean in French? Frog. Okay, and this painting by Monet was painted in 1869. It's at the Met, and on purpose, I didn't write the title because I'm expecting you to find the title of this painting. It has to do with the shape of this little thing in the middle, and I told you a little bit before. We had, you remember? Something about Normandy, and what happens in Normandy?
Oh, it looks like a...
It looks like a camembert. So the name of his painting is Le Camembert.
What's that? Oh, the cheese. Oh, okay. Actually, at this place called Camembert?
Yes.
In honor of the
I don't-
product, in honor of the town, in honor
No, I don't think so, because this was near Paris. I just think that at that time, so this cafe was the place where the youth of Paris, it was just outside of Paris on the river banks. They had this nice place where they could dance. You know, a lot of things were happening, I think, in this Parisian youth. And they would picnic, they would go there. And this little island, you see, they would also go in the water. And this little island, I think, just made them think of a camembert.
Sure.
So I think that's nothing more than that. And the sad thing is that this restaurant, this cafe, burned in the early 1900s, and now this whole island here is just forest. You have highways around. You have like kind of lost its Okay. So now back to the plan. Okay, you remember I told you a revolutionary art movement. The end of the Second French Empire, and a series of paintings. So we're going to talk now about a revolutionary art movement. Why is that? 3 major points. Because it's avant-garde, because of the technological innovation, and because of the optical effect. And I'm going to start talking about the avant-garde. Okay? Avant-garde, the new bourgeoisie, they wanted to challenge the convention and aesthetic of academic life. Okay? So first, a definition of the word avant-garde. Avant-garde is a military term. It's a French word that means that this is the people who are in the front row when they go to the battle, or this is the people who are sent before the battle in recognition. So they are the ones who are being the most exposed to die. You know, they are also the ones who are going in recognition to see what's going on here. It's exactly the same thing in art. Avant-garde means that you are going to be the first one to be hit by criticism. You're going to be the first one to be hit by the reviews. That's not going to like what you do because it's different. But you're also going to be the one who are going to go in exploration to see what the people are ready to take. What is the new trends in art? That's what avant-garde means. It's a military term. Okay. So a rebellious. The Impressionists are young, they're 20 years old, and they are a rebellious young artist who want to destroy the established order. So what is the established order? That is the established order. Okay? Thomas Couture, Romans in the Decadence of the Empire. So the paintings at that time were beautiful. Technically, they were the best, but they were kind of all the same. There was no more creativity in them. I mean, the technicity was amazing, but they were all about the same subject. And the art world at that time was very much, there was a hierarchy. There was the best subject, and then the second best, and then the third best. So the best subject were the military victories. The mythological subject, the Bible subject. Okay, that was considered as the top of the top, the best of the best. Okay, then you would have the portraits painting. Then you would have a still life. So you had like this whole hierarchy. Okay, and the other thing is that these paintings were big, and they were brought by whom? They were brought by the aristocracy to put in their castles at the top of the hills. Okay, or they were bought by the government to put in the official building. They were big paintings, okay, for this society that was that has a lot of caste, you see, and the art world represented this social caste of a society. But the Impressionists, they belong to what we call the bourgeoisie. Bourgeoisie means the middle class. And the word bourgeoisie comes from the word bourg, B-O-U-R-G, which means borough. It means the town, where the people are. This is where you have the merchants, where you have the artisans. It means it's not the aristocracy who is living in its castle somewhere, and it's not the peasants who are living in their fields. It's these people who live in the town and who are making the city live. Okay? And these people, thanks to the Industrial Revolution, are having more and more money. Okay. Avant-garde, a new bourgeoisie. I think it's funny. I did that on purpose because I don't know about you, but I would never associate bourgeoisie with avant-garde. You know, usually, you know, we don't do that. We don't associate middle class with avant-garde. You know, I don't know about you, but that was the case. The bourgeoisie with the Industrial Revolution has a lot of disposable income and is interested in modern subjects, painting that fit into their home about subjects that they like and understand. So they want paintings that they can put into their new apartment in this Paris who had been completely changed. All the, you had the Haussmannization of Paris, all these new buildings have been built. Paris is becoming a modern city. You have this new bourgeoisie who now has money, want to spend it, and want to spend it on art that represents their life, what they are going through. And they want to put their art in their living room. They want to put this art in their dining room. So that means that even if the apartments in Paris are beautiful, it's still going to have to be small pieces. Okay, now, technological innovation. Okay, so I told you about the avant-garde, and now I'm going to tell you about technological innovation. Okay? Technological innovation. First, the new paint tube. I told you about that. Okay, I think you understood how much this has changed everything. But there is another technological innovation that happened at that time, and it's the photography. And that completely changed everything. Okay? First, people thought that with the arrival of photography, some people said, painting is finished. So they had to adjust. And they would start using it as a tool, like Degas and his ballet dancer. Imagine, you're painting, okay, and you're trying to have this natural movement of a ballet dancer, but it's very hard. But if you can take photography, like clack, 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 suddenly you can have a much better definition of a movement. You can see things that before you would never see. It really brought an ability to analyze movement. Okay? So, and also, it gave them a possibility to be much more authentic. You see, before it was much more stiff because you wouldn't have this possibility to have this second movement. You know, now we can have real movement in their painting. It's more authentic. Also, they would paint the new trains and were able to easily access the countryside. So Paris is going through big changes, as I said to you. They are rebuilding the whole thing. They are making these beautiful buildings. This is what we call the Haussmannization of Paris, okay? And now, with all this new technology, they are building this train station at the corners of Paris so people can easily go in the countryside for the day. So, for example, that's the Gare Saint-Lazare. It's a brand new train station. And Monet would go to Argenteuil, where he would go and spend the day and paint there. And he would take the train and just spend the day there. So Argenteuil now is 7 miles from the Gare Saint-Lazare. Now, if you take the train at the Gare Saint-Lazare and you go to Argenteuil, it's 10 minutes by train. So imagine 100 years ago, it might have been an hour, even by train. But even an hour, you just go there, you take your canvas, your paint tubes, you go outside, you paint what you see, and you come back at night. This is, I don't know if you realize how much this is new, completely revolutionary.
It's called the modern station of Paris, the Haussmann, like the Boulevard Haussmann.
Boulevard Haussmann. So Haussmann was the Baron Haussmann, who is the one who completely changed the figure of Paris and made Paris the first modern city. So they were interested in innovation, experimentation, and creativity. Now, optical effect, the third part about a revolutionary art movement, which I would say is all these three parts are kind of connected within each other. You see, it's like it's hard to talk about one part without talking about the other parts. So they are interested in the immediacy of sensation and optical experience of a particular moment. And that is thanks to the fact that they can go outside, and thanks also to the fact that they have photography and they are suddenly exposed to this notion of immediacy that never before they could do. Okay? De-emphasis on line. So this is this old debate between line versus color, drawing versus color, painting. What's the best? So you always have the two camps. Okay, that's since like the Renaissance we have this debate. But right now, who's winning the debate? The color people against the drawing people. Okay, but it's a debate that always there's trends. It fluctuates. Okay, This is
I mean, maybe you've seen this painting a dozen times, but I've never really noticed that she's in the shade. All the color is around her.
Yes.
The subject herself is dark.
Yeah.
And it's drawing your attention to the darkness
of
her and the child behind her.
Yes. He really.
I've never noticed that.
Yes.
How it seems obvious now.
Yeah.
But how neat this painting is. So what you end up seeing is the color of the sky, the color of the grass.
Yes.
And there's some woman in the middle. You may not even notice her.
Yes.
That's what we're looking at.
And yes, as you say, the movement. You feel that she's moving her head.
Right.
It's like you're feeling the movement. You feel the movement of the clouds. The skirt is moving, and you see the brush strokes, which was like, a no. I mean, the first reviews of Impressionism, the art reviews, they said, we even see brush strokes. That means that the painting is not finished. You see, and no, it was finished. So that's Camille and Jean. Jean was his first son, and Camille was Monet's first wife. Yes, Thomas?
You see the only thing that's not moving is the child.
Yes.
It's kind of like he was looking or she was looking at something.
Yes.
So that's why the woman turned.
Yes, and this opposition between the shadow and the light in the background just really creates tension in the painting. Okay, now we're moving to the second theme. So I told you, revolutionary art movement, the end of the Second French Empire. 1870, 1871. So he is 30 years old. Remember, he was born in 1940. This is 1870. During which war Monet escaped to London? The Franco-Prussian War, the Napoleonic War or the American Civil War? Bravo, very good. Very nice. So I'm going to read that to you because it's much easier for me to read it for you. So a quick history lesson. In 1815, France lost to the English during the Battle of Waterloo. This was the end of the First French Empire led by Napoleon I. In 1871, Monet fled Paris because of the Franco-Prussian War, which France also lost. This was the end of the last French Empire led by Napoleon III. It's ironic because Monet moved to London and painted the symbol of France's first lost, the Waterloo Bridge. So this painting is basically about a series of French military defeats. Yeah. Okay.
Would he have agreed with that?
Huh?
Would Monet have agreed with that?
Yeah, I wonder about that because what I can it's very hard for me to not infuse my own culture in your question. And for me, as French person, Waterloo is a symbol of a defeat.
It'd be like
So-
painting Pearl Harbor.
Yes.
So does that then reflect the response by the French community to his work? I mean, understandably, it's 1903. It's
Yeah.
it's a generation removed from
Yes.
the defeat, but still, it's this avant-garde movement. It's going against the traditional French style.
Yeah.
And he's painting this great symbol of French humiliation.
Yes.
So what kind of reception do you then get for this kind of work
Right.
back at your home?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
And I don't have the answer. Because did they associate at that time, did the people associated it with a defeat like me? I would associate my generation at school, we all learn Waterloo Bridge is the defeat of Napoleon. We know that.
It's sort of like 9/11 for us.
Yes, but now, did the people at that time had the same association? It was,
Emotion
Yes,
connected with it.
I don't know.
A negative.
I don't know.
Or is 1903 far enough removed? I mean, it's almost a century since Waterloo. It's 30 years
Yeah.
or so since the end of the empire.
Yeah.
The Second Empire.
And I'm going to keep going
Yeah,
because what I'm going to say, we'll see if you make a connection and we'll see if it can eventually, based on your question, maybe it can help the question and move forward. Let's see. Okay, Napoleon I and his nephew, Napoleon III. So this one is the first emperor, and this one is the second one. And I just put the next slide. I just wanted to show you that Americans are not the only one who have family in politics, Like this one, Theodore Roosevelt, and Franklin D. Roosevelt was his nephew. So, okay, the end of the Second French Empire. Okay, so the Siege of Paris. To be quick, 1970, war between the French and the Prussian plus German, because they were not a big country yet. Then the French lost, and Napoleon III has to flee. He goes somewhere. Then what happened is that a new republic, the Third French Republic, is going to take over and keep on doing the fight. Okay? And this is when we have the Siege of Paris. And they're going to fight against the Germans who are going to circle the town of Paris, the city of Paris. During the war, the Germans besieged Paris for 133 days. Hunger, no communication with the outside, incessant bombing, sickness. Look at that. For those who can speak French, viande canine et féline. They had to eat cats and dogs. They had to eat rats. Okay. Then what happened is that this government, the Third Republic, is also losing the war, and they are fleeing to Versailles. And what happened is that you have these revolutionary people who want to take over Paris and declare Paris an independent country. And this is what we are going to call La Commune, and it's going to be the civil war. Fear, suspicion, shootings, denouncements. It's very much like what happened during the Second World War, where you just needed to have a neighbor who would denounce yourself to the German Gestapo, and you were sent into the camps. Same thing. I mean, there was fear. I mean, I read a book about the life of Berthe Morisot, who is one of the French Impressionists. And they were, I mean, everybody could be captured at any moment because your neighbor didn't like you, denounced you, and boom, you were killed. So, not a good time. And then what happened is that the government, the Third Republic, who had fled to Versailles, decided to regain control. Okay? And this is what we call the Bloody Week. May 22nd to 28, 1871, 30,000 people were killed. Major parts of Paris were in ruins, one of the largest urban insurrections in Europe, with the Warsaw insurrection during the Second World War. And I want to show you something. So I told you, 30,000 people died. Fear, suspicion, Paris is destroyed. All these new buildings built by Ottomans are destroyed. And look at this painting. Isn't it beautiful? Isn't it nice?
Done at the same time?
It was done in 1878,
Oh, wow.
7 years after the war. The Parc Monceau, a site of mass execution during the Commune. So, the end of the Second French Empire, the Impressionist paintings are paintings about healings. They are safe, they are peaceful, they are tranquil. The rapid brushstrokes convey a sense of spectacle, celebration, no more memories of death and fights. We want to forget. We are moving on, we just don't want to talk about it. So, I wonder if there is not part of the answer in here of your question.
So in effect, painting Waterloo Bridge in 1903
Yes.
is, for want of saying a better word, a denial of what's going on, kind of a shoving it out of memory and saying, hey, look at this pretty bridge.
Yes.
Sure, it's a glorious symbol of our defeat,
Yeah.
but hey, it's a nice bridge, let's
Yes.
paint it.
Yes.
Or maybe it's
Yeah.
the beginning of a conversation, a way of like reintroducing it, something painful, but that looks beautiful, and saying, this is a part of our
Like,
shared
yes,
culture and
yes.
history, and we
Yeah.
haven't really talked about this, because he's still a revolutionary painter, right?
Yes.
And so he's bringing
Yeah.
this back into the consciousness,
Yes.
and maybe starting a conversation.
Maybe it's the start of a conversation. I don't know. But what I can tell you is that this whole theory about Impressionism, painting about healing, is a pretty recent theory. This is something that art historians started to think about in the last 20, 30 years. It's in kind of a new vision, a new view on Impressionism. Okay, wow, it takes some. So now we're moving to the last part. Okay, so I told you first the revolutionary art movement, second the end of the Second French Empire and how they want to move on. Now a series of painting. So later, in the late 1890s, so now he was born in 1840, he's 50 years old. Okay? Monet went back 3 times to London with the intention of painting the fog. And don't forget, he's 50 years old, and now he's rich. Okay? Now he's completely, he's a worldwide renowned painter. He does what he wants. He just paints. Okay? This is a series of 100 paintings. Can you believe that? He started 100 painting. And what happened is that late 1890s, he moved to Giverny. This is where really he's going to start settling. He's going to start enjoying really painting without always worrying about putting food on the plate. Okay, now he's happy, enjoys the life. He remarried because his first wife died, and he's focusing completely on his painting. Okay, and he's going to start his series. And why is that? It's because he wants to study the light. Don't forget, again, he can go outside. He has easily access to paint, and he wants to paint only beautiful things. So one of the series that everybody know about is the haystacks, which in French is, we say, les meules. It's a 25 canvas series. And so this one, he painted at sunset. This one is a morning snow. So I put these two paintings here because both are in Boston. Okay? And this one is a morning end of a summer. So you can imagine that in the morning he leaves, he takes his canvas with him. Okay? He goes in the outside field, just the field outside of his house. He put his canvases, okay? And in the morning he paints. And then the light change and he moves to the next painting. And then the light change and he moves to the next painting. So he goes 1890s. He goes to the Savoy Hotel. He has money. He has money. Monet has money. And he can rent a beautiful suite. And from his suite, this is what he sees. He sees the Waterloo Bridge, the Charing Cross Bridge, and the House of Parliament. And he's just going to paint them at different time of the day because he said that London is not beautiful except for its fog. Because he loves the fog and the effect of light that it has.
You said a couple slides ago that he was seeking out light and beauty and third eye.
He had painting.
But that last painting had neither light nor, frankly, much beauty.
Yes.
It's his interpretation of it.
Yes.
But he's painting just an industrial bridge in
I agree.
Smoggy, gloomy weather.
Yeah, I agree.
So is this because this is later in his career, his development, or he's seeking out light and trying to do interesting stuff with it?
Well, I'm going to give you my interpretation of your question, is that I think that now he's getting very sure of himself, and sometimes I think his paintings are not that good. You know, I think now he's doing a lot. He wants to experiment, and he does a painting, puff, it is done, he moves on to the next one. Maybe there's a lack of... Yes, there's less need to really... is he still an avant-garde? I'm not sure.
Can we go back to that picture, Marion?
This one?
The one of the three pictures he took from the hotel room?
Yes, the Waterloo Bridge, the Charing Cross Bridge, and the House of Parliament. Yes.
The haystacks.
Oh.
Thank you, the haystacks. Because you look at the background of each one of them are very different.
Yes.
Yeah, sunset, morning snow effect.
Yes.
You know, morning end of summer. So it's like he was more, I think, I know nothing about this.
Yes.
He was really concentrating more on the background than he was the haystacks. Would you say that?
Well, you know that I think maybe also what you're saying is that he was probably interested also in the contrast. You know, in the contrast with the background and the haystacks to create tension, to create interest. And as you said earlier, look at the haystack is in the shadow again. You see? What is he trying to do? What's the goal at that time, you know?
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
You know, with that original, that early one of the Roman Decadence, the romantic painting.
Yes.
You don't know where the light's coming from because that's not the point. So maybe when you're saying he's seeking out the light, it's for the contrast we saw with the haystacks.
Yes.
It's for the shadows. It's for the light. That woman with the parasol. It's to see how the light is playing with the subject, and you're always aware of where the sun is or the light source.
And you know that makes me think of something. What you're saying is that I've been studying recently about the abstract expressionism of this American movement, and when you look at Monet, and when I look also at my own art production, I think that there is something that is happening here, is that we are trying to repeat the same process under different circumstances. I think that's something that was not the case before. You would do a masterpiece, and that's it, and then you would move to something else. He's He wants to study the effect of light on the same object under different circumstances. Abstract expressionism, same thing. They're using few methods. So let's, for example, take Bartlett Newman with his zips. So he's using a very limited amount of techniques, but he's going to use them to an infinite order. And me, I connect a lot with that in my own art production. And I enjoy very much doing that. I'm going to use a theme, and then I'm going to repeat it several times under a different order. I'm experimenting. Maybe it's because painting is not as expensive as it used to be, and we can do that. I don't know. Okay, how many canvases did he finish in his London series? 15, 37, 75. 75? Nope. 37. Yeah. So that means that you have 37 paintings of kind of the same thing in the world, you know. So the subject is secondary to the effect of light and weather. No concern for detail, vague shapes of a city, reduced value contrast. If you look at that, you have some lights, you have some darks, but they're not the dominance here, okay? There's a lot of kind of same value painting. The colors is changing, but the values are the same. And are they all good? I don't think so. And here is our painting. And where is it? At the Worcester Art Museum. So, by the way, how do you say fog in French? Pluie, brouillard, brume. Brouillard. So this one is in Canada.
So that one is the subject, like one or two of the Waterloo bridges
Yes.
that were more obvious before.
Yeah.
And all you can see is the sun. You see, I presume, a
Yeah.
reflection. Maybe that's a guy on a
Yeah.
boat. Maybe
Yeah.
there's Waterloo Bridge
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
But you can't see anything.
No.
It's almost abstract at this point.
Yes.
Because you're just not getting any subject.
And there you're saying something, is that, so most of the historians will say that the father of abstraction is, what's his name? It's post-impressionism, and I have a blank. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Very lovely.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I have a...
Matisse?
No, before Matisse. Just after the Impressionist, post-impressionism. I'll find it. But me, I think that Monet, with this idea of repetition, this is for me the beginning of abstraction, the real beginning of abstraction. So this is Matisse when he was older. And I want, this is Monet when he was older. And I want to finish this presentation by telling you one thing that for me really kind of hit me, is that, so let's say, I made this calculation. So let's say he started painting, he was 15 years old. He died, he was 85. So that means that he painted for 70 years. Yes? Am I doing the right calculation? Yes. During 70 years, he painted, drawing, paintings, kind of like everything he did, okay? He painted 2,500 paintings, drawings and pastels. So yes, some drawings are probably done in 15 minutes. Okay, I agree. But still, if you divide 71 years of painting by 71 years of painting by 2,500, that means that he painted around 1.5 painting per week. 1.5 per week. Me, in my own art production, if I can do one painting every 2 weeks, it's a miracle. Usually it's much more than that. Oh, thank you, Thomas. So, you know, it makes you think, and it makes you think, that's maybe also why he was so good. because he produced, he did quantity. Then you get really comfortable, you learn your technique. It's like, it's like anything. It's like anything. When you do something a lot of times, you have a... So then after I did this presentation, I decided, okay, my goal for this year is one painting every 2 weeks. And for the moment, I'm more at one painting per month. But I'm trying. So this is finished.
Thank you very much.
And yes, I hope you, thank you very much.